And that's why the age of information is slowly giving way to the age of the misinformation crisis. Hello, my friends of the Psychedelic Renaissance. It's Tom Hatzis, your psychedelic historian, and this is Your Mate Tom, Error Correction, and the Age of Misinformation. Are algorithms killing intellectual quality? Well, I wasn't planning on making one of these videos this year, but a recent video by Your Mate Tom about the Amanita Muscaria made me realize just how lost so many good people are when it comes to truly understanding that mushroom. In short, a lot of what Your Mate Tom said in his video, I'm sorry to say, is factually wrong. I mean, it's essentially pop history, and now it is up to this Mate Tom to clear it up. Now, I just wanted to say right from the outset, this is not a call-out or a gotcha. I am a fan of Your Mate Tom's channel. I think he has great takes on a variety of topics. So this video is going to be less about his video and more about another issue entirely. Or rather, this video is going to kind of be two videos in one. In the first part, I'm going to outline the issue that I'm seeing, and in the second part, I'm going to show how Your Mate Tom's Amanita Muscaria video applies to the issue. And the issue is that when large YouTube channels like Your Mate Tom's do not do satisfactory research, they are basically just churning out misinformation, although I don't believe they mean to do that, and I don't think that Your Mate Tom is dishonest in any way. In fact, one of the things I like about his channel so much is how authentic he seems to be. But for a channel as big as Your Mate Tom's, I really think he needs to think about this, because one of the unfortunate byproducts of life in the modern world is that people tend to base accuracy, like when they hear something or see something, especially on YouTube or Instagram, but they will base the accuracy of what is being said on how many followers or subscribers or views a person has. So a person with large followings and a lot of views, well, they must be correct no matter what they say, and those that have smaller channels or smaller platforms on, whatever social media, well, they must be wrong with everything they're saying because, I mean, look at how small their audience is. So while Your Mate Tom said some highly questionable things in his video and didn't even present any evidence for anything, he will be perceived as being right because he has a lot of subscribers and a lot of views on his videos. On the other paw, everything I'm going to say in this video, I can back up with receipts, facts, logics, historical documents, I mean, you name it. And yet, I will still be perceived as being wrong because I don't have, a large YouTube channel. And that's not just true between Your Mate Tom and this Mate Tom. I mean, that's true across the board. And that's why the age of information is slowly giving way to the age of the misinformation crisis. So what is causing the misinformation crisis? How does this misinformation spread? And what was it that Your Mate Tom said in his Amanita Muscaria video that sparked these thoughts in me? Those are the questions I will try to answer with this video. But first, if you're into this kind of content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like, let's meet up on Instagram. Find me at Psychedelic Historian. With that out of the way, let's get into it. The cause of the misinformation crisis is not complicated at all and can be reduced to one word: algorithms. Once a YouTuber's channel becomes too big, they become beholden to the algorithm. And once you're beholden to the algorithm, well, you're gonna cut corners and the quality's gonna suffer because it's not about producing accurate content, it's about feeding the algorithm. Now, that doesn't mean that all the content will suffer. For example, if the YouTuber has a background knowledge in a certain area, it's not going to affect the quality of their information really at all, or the accuracy, I should say, to be more accurate. It's not going to affect the accuracy as much. So here's what I mean. Your Mate Tom has a video about why he quit cannabis and his relationship with cannabis that I personally enjoyed as somebody who has tried to, I still try to take breaks with cannabis every now and then to just see that, it's possible for somebody who loves cannabis as much as I do and has the same name as I do to be able to kick it for a bit just so that they could sort of clear their head out. I mean, that was really positive and awesome for me to hear, so I appreciate that. Thing is, Your Mate Tom's video was about his relationship with cannabis, which I can only imagine he has an expertise in, right? However, based on his Amanita Muscaria video, it does not appear to me that he has that same relationship or understanding of that mushroom. So to satisfy the algorithm, he pretty much just had to produce what to me looks like a rush job that had a sort of seasonal flair to it, like the holiday season, Christmas, and Santa Claus and all that, to generate clicks and views. And again, that's not his fault, and I love his channel. It's that the algorithms force him to rush produce, or at least in this case, that Amanita Muscaria video, because the entire thing is essentially pop history that no historian would agree with. This seems to be what happened to one of my favorite channels, the Punk Rock MBA, that was once hosted by Finn McKenty, which is no longer in operation. Now, there's a lot of people in the music world that have their theories as to why he quit, and they're all trying to psychoanalyze this guy, and I think that's complete bullshit because, one, none of them even know him, so how do you psychoanalyze someone you've never met? And two, none of them are psychoanalysts, and quite frankly, neither am I, so that's why I'm not going to go out of my way to psychoanalyze a person I've never even met as a non-psychoanalyst. But the one thing I haven't heard mentioned is the way McKenty's videos, the intellectual quality began to suffer once his channel, once his platform, once the Punk Rock MBA blew up. In Finn McKenty's own words, he went from doing legitimate research into these bands to essentially just reading their Wikipedia pages into a camera. Why? Well, because the algorithm has prevented him from producing quality content. He just has to push a video out, whether it's good or bad, or he's just reading from fucking Wikipedia. I mean, just look at what he says here.
It's you, dude.
Yeah, there's a few, like, Fall Out Boy would be an example of a band where I have, I think, something different, because I remember when Pete and Andy and we were sort of about the same age, and I remember them from like the hardcore scene back in the day, and so I sort of have a little bit of a different perspective on them than other people might. So that would be an example of, I think, of one of my better videos. But yeah, a lot of them just like I literally just read Wikipedia.
Going back to what I said earlier about Your Mate Tom and cannabis, Finn had a prior knowledge and relationship with Fall Out Boy, so he was able to produce a quality video based on his own background knowledge. His Fall Out Boy video is 6 years old, so this was before his platform blew up, which is why it's a quality video. So for me, I'd rather just put out one video a week that I can take the time to check the accuracy and, do all the fact checking and all that stuff, than just shit out one video after the next. That's just a whole lot of nonsense. Now, does that mean I'm never wrong? Jesus Christ, no. I get things wrong all the time. I mean, who doesn't get things wrong? But that's not what I'm saying. We're all going to get things wrong, but there's a difference between getting something wrong because you didn't have time to do real research because the algorithm demanded that you produce a video, and getting something wrong because, you just get things wrong sometime. So at the end of the day, I suppose I would rather put out a video that I know I put the time in to make as accurate as possible and have only 30 people watch it, which quite frankly for me, 30 people would be a lot of people watching one of my videos, so yeah, go me. But anyway, I would rather do that than put out a video that gets millions of views that is just filled with horseshit. Because if 1 million people are watching something I produce that isn't factually accurate, well then, goddamn, I'm part of the problem. I literally become part of the misinformation crisis, and holy shit, there is no thing I'd rather not be than that. So now that we understand how truly excellent channels like Your Mate Tom's can produce subpar intellectual content, and I'm saying that with full recognition of how smart and insightful that guy is. So again, this is not a dunk on him. I'm just talking about the pop history of this one video he made. Let's take some time, however, to examine what it was that he got wrong. Now, I'm not going to address everything Your Mate Tom says in his video because it's a lot, and he does get some things right as well. It's more of the pop history that he gets wrong. So let's just dive right in.
How does Santa and his reindeer magically fly through the entire world, delivering presents? If you guessed hallucinogenic mushrooms, the same one Super Mario takes to power up, you might have a point.
Would you have a point? First and foremost, the Amanita Muscaria is not a hallucinogenic mushroom. In fact, psilocybin mushrooms aren't, by definition, hallucinogenic either. And anyway, when it comes to entheogenic mushrooms, hallucinogenic, I'm just going to say it is kind of a bullshit term. Secondly, if you think that the Amanita Muscaria is behind the development of Santa Claus as a character, I would draw your attention to my full-length video on this topic, Mysterious Mushroom, which I'll link at the end. As for the flying reindeer thing, I'll get to that in a minute.
What if this ancient deliriant is what's referred to as soma in the ancient religious texts?
Soma is almost certainly not the Amanita Muscaria. That is just more, and I'm sorry to use the phrase again, pop history that no scholar takes seriously. The idea that Soma was the Amanita Muscaria originates with Robert Gordon Wasson, who, as the historian Chris Bennett has shown, completely fudged all of the evidence that would point to that mushroom being Soma. So not to be a dick, but I mean, Wasson literally just made the whole thing up. For those interested, I highly recommend Chris Bennett's book, Cannabis and the Soma Solution. It will be absolutely impossible to consider that Soma was the Amanita Muscaria after reading that book, because Bennett, I mean, with like clinical precision, shows just how much Wasson lied about what was said in the Rig Veda, which, by the way, it's one of the ancient texts that mentions Soma.
But, and this is why we're here today, some people believe that the red and white color palette of Christmas and the pine trees and the symbolism that comes with it actually originates from the iconic fairy tale toadstool mushroom, Amanita Muscaria.
Some people is one of those catchphrases that drives the age of the misinformation crisis. Some people believe that we are all subject to a race of reptilian overlords. Some people believe the world is flat. Some people believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Some people believe all kinds of silly things, so saying some people believe anything doesn't make it accurate.
Dude, think about it. Flying reindeer, literal elves helping a jolly fat man pack presents, to magically fly through the night, not to mention that pine trees is the symbol of the Christmas tree.
Let's go one by one. First, your mate Tom mentions the flying reindeer. Now, here he is alluding to the pop history or the trope or whatever we want to call it that holds that since Siberian reindeer do eat the Amanita Muscaria, and that's true, they do, that we base our idea of Santa flying through the air with reindeer on the fact that the reindeer eat the mushroom. However, there is a big problem with that hypothesis. You see, the first reference we have to Santa flying, the first description of it, comes from the 1809 book, A Knickerbocker History of New York, by Washington Irving. In that book, Santa does fly through the air, but he flies in a wagon, not in a sleigh, and that sleigh is not pulled by any animals, reindeer or otherwise. So you see what's going on here. Santa's flight predates his association with reindeer. Therefore, Amanita eating reindeer cannot possibly be the origin of Santa's flight. Second is your mate Tom's reference to the elves. And here again, Santa, or really in this case Saint Nick, he originally did not have any elves. Among the earliest I've traced Santa having elves is in the 1932 cartoon by Disney called Santa's Workshop. Now, I'm not totally sure if this is the first reference to Santa having elves, so if you know an earlier reference, please leave it in the comments. I'm saying that this is one of the earlier ones that I've been able to personally find. The point is, elves didn't enter the Santa story until almost a century after the modern incarnation of Santa Claus was created. You can actually even do a fun experiment. If you're a Gen Xer and you still have both parents and grandparents alive, and there's not too many Gen Xers left with both parents and grandparents alive, but if you're one of them, try this. Ask your parents if when they were younger, they remember Santa Claus's elves. I can almost guarantee you they're going to say yes, they did. However, ask your grandparents, when they were young, do they remember Santa Claus having elves? I can almost guarantee you they're going to say no. In fact, they'll probably remember the elves from their kids, your parents' youth. But as far as your grandparents' youth, there were no elves back then. So it's more of a modern association than anything that's, was with Santa from the beginning.
Not to mention that pine trees is the symbol of the Christmas tree.
With much love to your mate Tom, the original Christmas trees were not coniferous or evergreen trees at all, but were rather deciduous trees like the birch and the maple. Your mate Tom needs an association with evergreen trees because the Amanita Muscaria has a mycorrhizal relationship with it. Right? And so that's why people think, oh, Christmas trees, mycorrhizal relationship, Amanita Muscaria, boom, we got Christmas here. Au contraire. Because deciduous trees do not have a mycorrhizal relationship with the Amanita Muscaria, and yet they were the original Christmas trees. Therefore, just like Santa's flying reindeer, the idea of a Christmas tree predates the use of a coniferous or evergreen tree for that purpose. Therefore, the Amanita Muscaria's mycorrhizal relationship with that tree cannot be the source of the origin of the Christmas tree.
But there's another strange theory that some historians believe to be true.
Real quick, there is not a single reputable historian on the planet that would agree with what your mate Tom is about to say.
Alright, here's a question for you. If a shaman elder was to pass you a glass of his warm, yellow piss, and he said if you drank it, you'd go on a spiritual quest, forever transforming your life, would you drink it?
This is a complete misunderstanding of how Siberian shamanism, to use a very broad term, operates. Siberian medicine workers, of which the term shaman only represents a small number of them, do not give the Amanita Muscaria to people. They just don't do that. How it works is the client will go to the healer complaining about an illness or some problem they have, and the shaman will enter a trance to find either a cure or a solution to their problem. And I should also say, the majority of these medicine workers don't use the Amanita Muscaria to enter that trance at all. That's just like a Western colonizing pop history that all these people are eating mushrooms. They don't. Most Siberian medicine workers rely on other forms of mind-altering techniques like drumming, fasting, chanting, and dancing. To say that the shaman gives the mushroom to any client is profoundly inaccurate and is a very Western way of seeing the relationship between a healer and a patient. Because in our culture, as we all know, and this is what your mate Tom is probably basing his idea on, right, the doctor gives the patient the medicine, right? We all know that. However, in these remote Siberian cultures, it is the medicine worker who takes the medicine on behalf of the patient. Your mate Tom is creating a very romantic version of Siberian shamanism, giving it a matrix red pill or blue pill embellishment that doesn't actually exist in real life.
Vikings allegedly munched on these mushrooms right before going berserk mode, swinging axes into their enemies' faces.
While this myth has been repeated in various videos, blog posts, and articles, they all stem from the same source written by a guy named Samuel Udman, who, let's be honest, looks like a total asshole. In 1784, Udman speculated that the rage from the Viking berserker warriors could only be derived from a drug, which is itself just an unbelievably silly premise to start with. I mean, have you ever gotten road rage before? How many Amanita Muscaria mushrooms did you eat before that? None, right? Point is, Udman merely assumed that it had to be a drug. And so he rejected things like opium, cannabis, and belladonna because he didn't believe that they were available in Scandinavia at the time. Anyway, Udman settled on the Amanita Muscaria for no other reason than he knew that it was available in Scandinavia. That's it. That was all the evidence he required. All of you can see that this is just the fallacy of believing that correlation equals causation. Now, I don't think for one moment that your mate Tom isn't familiar with the correlation equals causation fallacy. Of course he is. He's a really smart guy. It's not his fault. It's the algorithms. They didn't even give him, any time to check his facts. And since there is not a single mention of a mushroom anywhere in Norse literature, we can say with relative certainty that Udman was just speculating. And that's not that big a deal. Look, we all have to speculate sometimes, and we all get things wrong sometimes. I mean, I get things wrong, we all do. That's not the issue. What is at issue is the way modern researchers don't even read Udman's thoughts on the Amanita Muscaria and the Viking berserker warriors.
In eastern Siberia, shamans and even normies would take amanitas and go on spiritual journeys.
So this one is very interesting because that picture he just showed of that woman, her name is Tatiana.
Tatiana Come in here.
Different Tatiana. This is Tatiana Urkachan. She tends to people who have eaten too much Amanita Muscaria recreationally, and she was very clear that she has never eaten the mushroom herself, because in her mind she is a powerful healer that doesn't require a mushroom. And I know your mate Tom didn't mean to do this, but he completely ripped Tatiana Urkachan out of her cultural context by indicating or even somewhat implying that she eats the Amanita Muscaria mushroom, which she very much does not, or did not. She's dead now, but she didn't when she was alive.
What's without a doubt true is reindeers really do go out of their way to eat this magical toadstool mushroom. And yes, they do get high, and that's strange.
He is 100% correct about that. As I said earlier, Siberian reindeer absolutely seek out the Amanita Muscaria for its intoxicating effects. But so do bears, squirrels, and foxes. See, what your mate Tom did was he just ignored all of the other animals that eat the Amanita Muscaria, because today we have an association between reindeer, Santa Claus, and that mushroom. This is known as the fallacy of suppressing evidence. That's when an author or a thinker, an intellectual, will not account for all of the facts. They'll just focus only on the thing, whatever fact conforms to their biases. So your mate Tom wants there to be this association between the reindeer and the Amanita and Santa, so he'll mention the reindeer. Since there is no association with Santa Claus, foxes, squirrels, and bears, he's not going to mention them. And I don't believe for one moment that your mate Tom is trying to be deceptive or, cover up that bears also get high on the Amanita Muscaria. Far from it. It's the algorithms. They don't allow time for real research. And no, much as I loved your channel, Finn McKenty, reading a Wikipedia page is not doing research.
This is used by many North American tribes. It's used from shamans throughout Siberia.
I get that here it isn't your mate Tom making these claims, but since your mate Tom did include this guy in his videos, I can only gather that he agrees with what this guy said. Point is, both of those statements are factually wrong. There are not a lot of First Nations peoples who employ the Amanita Muscaria. I mean, is this guy kidding? There's like 2 or 3 maybe. The Chippewa did, and I think there's 2 or 3 in Mexico, and that's it. Of the whole Canada, United States, Central America, and South America, that's it for eating the. That is not like a continental distribution of Amanita Muscaria among First Nations peoples. I'm sorry, it just isn't. As for the Amanita Muscaria being used throughout Siberia, I am literally floored by this guy's audacity. The Amanita Muscaria is used in 3 very local places in Siberia. And just to give you an idea of the landmass we're talking about, like how big Siberia is, there are 7 time zones in Siberia. And only 3 very remote places use it. Okay? There's only about, I think, 11 Siberian communities that employ the Amanita Muscaria, and the majority of them employ it for recreation, not for healing or divination or what we in our Western imagination would call shamanism. There is a lot more to say about the issues presented in Your Mate Tom's video, but I feel like the point has been made. Our desire to chase algorithms is forcing some people, and some of the smartest people, to produce pop history. But I do like to keep things positive, so I'd like to end this video outlining something Your Mate Tom said that this mate Tom is 100% in agreement with.
But this Christmas, give yourself the present of presents. Go for a walk in nature. Sit in silence. Reconnect to your core truths, your higher self. Am I being a bit of a shit cunt? How can I improve that? The real magic of Christmas is reconnecting with yourself and the world around you.
Well, my friends, that's all I have for you this time, and I'd love to thank you for stopping by. If you're into this kind of, let's call it persnickety attention to detail and nuance, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and let's meet up on Instagram. And until we meet again, I'm Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, reminding you that you free your mind by using your brain. Peace.